Alrighty, everyone, welcome back. So, once again, there's been a large batch of teams who have been eliminated and have clinched a playoff spot. So, we're going to start with the eliminated teams here today with the Montreal Canadiens. So, the Canadiens are a team that has got eliminated this year and really shouldn't surprise anyone. I think we knew that Montreal wasn't going to, make it, but they've actually, even though they've fallen back down to earth, the expectations do feel like they've been exceeded a little bit. I do feel like this team has been better than their record projects and what they were supposed to be this year. I feel like they've been a lot better than they were supposed to. Currently, at the time of elimination, they are 29, 36, and 12 for 70 points. They are 28th in the NHL. They have scored 213 goals, have let in 268. They're 15, 20, and 4 at home, and they're 14, 16, and 8 on the road. So, again, as I said, they're a lot better than I feel like, their roster overall says on paper, their overall record. I feel like they have been a lot better, even though this team is still a ways away from being back to a playoff contender again like they were those years back in like the 2021 and that such era. But they still are making pretty good strides at becoming that team that we really envision them to be. I feel like a lot of players have taken huge steps this year. I feel like a lot of players need to be recognized for those huge steps, and that's why we're here today. So let's get into your leading scorers now. So we'll start off here with Nick Suzuki. Sorry, that's how you say his name. Suzuki, 77 games played, 33 goals, 41 assists for 74 points. Suzuki's a guy who, before this year, never hit 30 goals, I don't even think had 70 points. And Suzuki has exceeded those expectations. He's done a pretty good season for his standards. And I know there's been a lot of talks around Suzuki and the Canadiens saying that, he's overrated, he shouldn't be the captain, he's not good enough to be the captain. I think this year he really proved a lot of those doubters wrong. And I do think that Suzuki is becoming one of the better captains as he develops throughout the NHL. And, he had a 30-goal season this year. He has 70 points, could finish with around 75, 80 points. There's only a few games left in the season, but still, there's a pretty decent chance there that does happen. So, yeah, Suzuki, I think, has been great for Montreal this year, and I feel like not a lot of people are talking about it. There's a lot of players on Montreal who not a lot of people have been talking about when you just look at the overall numbers for some of these players who have played pretty well this season. Second in scoring is Cole Caulfield. Yeah, Cole Caulfield, when it comes to scoring, has been a little bit underwhelming, but still putting up a lot of points. Caulfield, 77 games played, 24 goals, 35 assists for 59 points. And when we saw Caulfield come into the NHL, a lot of us envisioned that he was going to get 30 to 40, maybe even 50 goal seasons. I saw from some people saying that's what Caulfield's ceiling could be. Well, I'm not saying that isn't impossible, but this year kind of showed that it's not really looking like that. And even though we played a full season, it does seem like the injuries he's dealt with, it's kind of been, shown in his play. But I still think that he can be a legitimate 30 to 40 goal scorer. I still feel like he can be the goal scorer that Montreal wants him to be. It's just this year, I feel like he's kind of taken a different role too, where he's passing the puck a lot more. He does have 35 assists, so he hasn't been playing awful. So I feel like people should keep that in mind for sure. But, yeah, I really do like Cole Caulfield. I really do think that he will get a 30 to 40 goal season in his career. I do think he'll get plenty of those as the Canadiens continue to develop. And as I said, I've been talking about how this could be one of the last years Montreal staying in that bottom Atlantic spot. I still on a level believe that, even though there's a lot of, it seems like every team in the Atlantic right now is like really competitive. Even the teams that are not in the playoff race, like Ottawa and Buffalo, are still really competitive hockey teams. Montreal's in that conversation too. So I want to believe that, but honestly, I have no clue. But I really do think that Montreal is going to get better. At least by next season. We're going to see a big improvement, I feel. Third in scoring is Mike Matheson. Matheson with 77 games played, 10 goals, 47 assists for 57 points. He was the player to me that's really impressed me this year. I really do think that Matheson, before this, was kind of looked at as like he was an kind of defenseman. He would be a top pairing guy on Montreal just because Montreal's defense isn't too great right now, even with the prospects. But, this year he really took a big stride offensively. has played really well on the offensive end of things. And when there was that stretch where Montreal was like actually pretty decently close to a playoff spot, Matheson was a big part of making that happen. So I feel like he should get a lot of credit for the way Montreal's played this season as well. So definitely, Mike Matheson deserves a lot of recognition. Someone else who deserves a lot of recognition too is Juraj Slavkovsky. When this guy was drafted, and the following year since he was drafted, people have profiled him as a bust. People said that he was just not going to do anything. He was not going to make it. He's not an NHL player. He was overrated from the Olympics. And listen, I understand where people were coming from with that because his debut season wasn't great. But at the same time, you just can't write off a player after 1 year. You just can't do that. So Slavkovsky this year, and especially in the second half of the season, has been really impressive for Montreal. Has set the most points by a 19-year-old in Canadiens history. Now, that may not seem like something big. Nah, like most points by a 19-year-old in a franchise, not really that impressive. But when you look at Montreal, they've been around for almost 120 years. They've been around to like 1906 or something like that. So they've been around for a very long time. And for a guy to set a record like that, it's pretty impressive. So Slavkovsky, 77 games played, 16 goals, 29 assists for 45 points. Even though like 45 points isn't great for a first overall pick, I think this is a year where we're really going to see him develop. We saw him develop a lot so far this season. Next year could be a year where we really see him take another big step. And this is kind of what we were expecting last season, but really never got. But still, Slavkovsky still has a lot of potential to be a really solid, top line guy for Montreal. And I understand that maybe if you went with Shane Wright, you would have gotten better. You would have a better future. Maybe if you went with Logan Cooley, you would have had a better future. But I still think Slavkovsky can be that effective player that Wright and Cooley are being for their respective teams. So Slavkovsky, a lot of credit there. Fifth in scoring, and finally, is Alex Newhook. You see a little bit of a point drop here, but Newhook has played about 50 games this year. He got injured. I believe he's actually out for the season now. But still, I think he deserves a lot of recognition for in the time that he did play. He didn't look terrible. 13 goals, 17 assists for 30 points in 50 games played with Montreal this season. I think Newhook definitely deserves some credit for the way he's played. When he was brought in for the picks that Montreal gave up for him, we assumed that he was going to be one of those really solid young forwards to provide a lot of potential for Montreal. And, in the games he's played, I feel like he has done that, even though the scoring has slowed a little bit. But I think a full year with Newhook, with Slavkovsky, with Caulfield, with Suzuki, Kirby Dach actually stays healthy, I feel like this team could really be pretty good. There's a lot of players who have come up and played this year as well, like Olovin, Kovacevic. There's been plenty of players who, to the casual fan, you have no idea who the hell Kovacevic is. You have no idea who that is. But still, I really do think that some of these young guys who have played up have shown some potential, and Montreal may be a lot closer than we think they are. Now, I don't think they're going to be close for another 2 to 3 more years at least. But I still think that people kind of underrate some of the players in Montreal's system, like Slavkovsky, like Newhook, all that good stuff. So getting into your goaltending here now, you have Sam Montembeault as your starter. They extended him, I believe, earlier in the season. But Montembeault, 15, 15, and 7, a 3.10 goals against average and a .904 save percentage. Again, the numbers aren't terrible for a team that has been letting up a lot of shots, a lot of goals. Those aren't that bad of numbers. I don't feel that Montembeault's going to be their goalie where they get to the end of this rebuild and say, yeah, he's our guy. But I do feel like them signing him to a 3-year deal, I think it is, a 3-year contract, it does kind of say that they're going to count on him to commandeer this team through this rebuild. So he's going to be here for the majority of that at least. I don't know if he's your starter, but we'll obviously find out what the choice is there at the end of the rebuild, which probably won't be again for another 2 to 3 more years. Your backup is Caden Primo. Primo with an 8-9-2 record, a 2.91 goals against average, and a .910 save percentage. Again, his numbers aren't bad either. His numbers aren't that bad. He's had games where he's played really well. He's had games where he's played bad. It's kind of been for Primo mostly throughout his career so far. He's never really gotten the NHL shot, and since Jake Allen's gotten traded, he's gotten more starts. But still, it just hasn't, he hasn't been like the guy we thought he was going to be at the level. He's been in the system for a long time. But I do think that you give him enough games, you give him enough time up there, he could be your maybe starting goalie in the future. But Obviously, we're still a ways away from that. But again, wrapping up this video, Montreal should not surprise anyone that they're in this spot where they are. That shouldn't surprise anyone that they're not in the playoffs. It really shouldn't. But I think another high draft pick is really going to benefit this team. They're not going to get first overall again, but I really do think that, maybe a fifth overall pick or a third overall pick really could benefit this team. I do like what they're building on their defensive core. I like Lane Hudson. I like David Reinbacher. I like the names they brought in, but I do feel that heading into this draft, they should go for a forward because their forward core, even though there's some good guys in there, it's still kind of lacking some top-end talent, more or less. And then in draft 2, where you got some plenty of guys who could get you some scoring and some potentially, solid point scoring, you could get a really good guy. So, like, for example, if Cole Yzerman is projected like he's going to be and drops down to Montreal like the 5th or 6th overall pick, I wouldn't complain. I would take him. So we'll obviously see there what happens. We're talking about the future there a lot. Again, we will be doing a 2024 review when the time comes for the Canadiens, but obviously we're about 2 weeks away before the season ends, and then I start those at the end, but Montreal's won't be for a little bit still. But regardless, I want to know your guys' thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you guys very much for watching. If you enjoyed, make sure to like and subscribe down below. That would be greatly appreciated. But regardless, thank you all for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Adios.